Before I get started comparing the different tone stacks and other projects from the Cigar Box Guitar Amplifier Notebook, I need to find a way to bypass any of the circuits in the signal chain for comparison to the original signal. On a few projects, I put a toggle switch or a foot switch to bypass or engage the circuit. But since I made all of these at different times and for different reasons, a bypass was not always in the design. To remedy this, I used a 1591B Hammond transparent enclosure to house a 3-pole double throw or 3PDT foot switch with 4 phone jacks to handle the input, the output, and the send and return for a very simple effects loop. While not required, I did add this 2-color LED to identify whether the signal was being sent to the loop or straight through to the rest of the signal chain. Now using the AB switch, an NPN boost, and the switch-o-matic tone control, the signal can be routed straight through to the amplifier when the indicator is green, or when it's red, it goes through the NPN boost to raise the signal up high enough so that any losses occurred in the tone control are compensated for, and then the signal goes off to the amp. The Big Muff tone control is pretty interesting, but it can also be very lossy because of R1 and R2. To compensate for that, I'm using the NPN boost and pushing it about all the way up. I compare those two signals to make sure that the straight through signal is about the same level as going through the effects loop. Now begins the arduous task of figuring out what capacitor values sound best for C1 and C2. Now, some of these lower values are difficult to hear a difference, but watch what happens as the value increases for C1 and C2. The amount of treble and bass response as I go through the tone control is vastly different. And for the final test, I'm going to choose some values that are pretty good for the low and the high end. It may not be optimal for everybody, but for this guitar, this signal path, and this amplifier, it seems to work pretty good. Moving on, before I switch from the Big Muff to Princeton circuit, using this 4-pole double throw switch, I need to make a few changes. Mainly, I need to reduce the gain of the NPN boost and also reduce the volume to at least 50%. The Princeton circuit is a lot less lossy than the Big Muff, so there is a whole lot more signal coming through, and I don't want to blow away the power amp making this switch. As an added bonus, using the Princeton circuit with the NPN gain and volume knobs, this is a great approximation of a very first amplifier. I've got a pre-gain section, a volume and a tone, and it can easily overdrive the power amp section and gets really nice, tasty overdrive. Right, I appreciate you guys suffering through this. There are so many different possibilities adjusting this thing. It was difficult to keep it in that 5-minute time range. So next time I'm going to be covering things that are, set and forget. So I should be able to run through those things pretty fast. All right, be sure to check the description. There may be links in there for stuff that I used in the video or not. Whatever, I got more stuff to do. All right, check you guys later.